Does God live in an infinite amount of dimensions, or is he dimensionless? The answer to that is both. We know that God is the creator of dimension itself. We know that he's not bound by that which he creates, but he forever exists outside that which he creates. So when we begin to reflect and understand on this, we know that there is an infinite amount of dimensions. Now, one might quickly presume and say, how do we know there's an infinite amount of dimensions? By your logic, then God must live in an infinite amount of different spaces. And the answer to that is space is not infinite, it is limited, and space is a category and a branch. It is a category of what it is to have a dimension. Specifically in the three dimension, there's space and time. These are certain properties that exist within a particular dimension. But when we go into higher dimensions, there are other elements, right? A two-dimension stick figure on a paper is different from our three-dimensional space-time continuum. It doesn't have all the factors and features that we have. But every time we continue to level up into a new dimension, there's a new property that exemplifies that particular dimension. We know that there's a third heaven. We know that there's the spiritual realm. We know that there is heaven which exists outside of the universe. We know that God always transcends that which he creates. So God transcends even the realm of heaven that he has created. And as we begin to reflect on this, we truly see that God is infinite. He doesn't only exist in an infinite amount of dimensions, because as soon as he created dimensions, certain other dimensions spread out and expanded. And when God creates, he creates from the highest peak from where he is, even though that thing is still outside him. And once that happens, then there's a continual reflection down of a multitude of certain things. So dimensions are where certain creations and things are encapsulated, remain, and reside in. And as God did that, we know that he didn't just enter into dimension when he created dimension, but he himself is also dimensionless. Because before God created, it was just God. Well, what did that look like? Well, it wasn't black. There wasn't air. There was literally nothing. And we don't know exactly what nothing is aside from God being and existing. And that's a mind-blowing thought, is that God exists within an infinite amount of dimensions, because each dimension holds a specific category, region, and range by which he looks through, operates in, by which certain things reside. And he looks from the highest peak of an infinite amount of dimensions, because he operates through and through within all dimensions, and a certain thing that he does within one dimension will reflect other dimensions. And he can also touch the one dimension, so to speak, or the two dimension, and that can also reflect and have a ripple effect into other dimensions, right? If we see words on a paper such as God's word and we read something, right, that's on two dimension, but it's reflecting us who exists within a three dimension. Then if we change the course of how we're operating, living, moving, and having our being, then obviously that's going to make us go more toward God. But the more we go toward God, there's an enemy at play. There's a spiritual realm. Our battle's not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and rulers of the air. So if that's happening, all of a sudden now we have a target on our back, and the enemy is going to come after us who we can't see. But we also know that the enemy can't do anything unless they go before God, who is in heaven, but also exists outside of heaven. So when they go to heaven, they obviously have to request permission. And then when they're doing that, God is existing within heaven, but he's also outside that in a different dimension altogether. And then obviously there can be a multitude, an innumerable amount of dimensions that God creates that we know nothing about. And so we ultimately need to understand that regardless of the number of dimensions, it's very feasible he's created an infinite amount of them, because when he created dimension, it wasn't just this big dimension and then he created us and whatnot, but he created an infinite amount by which certain things move through and have their being. And even where things don't even exist, but where only he is, God is also dimensionless, because when he created our space-time continuum, when he created heaven and earth, that's at the moment when he created dimension. But before that, obviously there was the spiritual heaven and so forth. But even before that, God, it was just God. Before he created angels and all that, he had to have a residing place to put those angels, right? He resides outside of that. And if hell and death are before the eyes of the Lord, how much more the hearts of the sons of men? God, as far as we know, there are physical realm. There's the physical realm, the metaphysical realm, the spiritual realm, the realm of imagination, heaven, hell, the lake of fire, the new heaven that is to come. All these different things. And so we need to understand that God is the only one who is dimensionless. He's boundless. He's unlimited. He's not constrained by anything. And may we just give praise and glory to Him who alone has this magnificent, ultimate, wonderful, beautiful attribute.